How are we all doing? Welcome. It's Wednesday. It's midweek. It is the 10th of July, 2024. And we're here with the normal people from the selection table this week. I haven't roped in any special guests. Lek Dog's still swanning off in old Blighty. I do believe he returns next week. I can't remember, but we'll be glad to have him back. But joining me, as always, I'm Pommy and Us. I'm joining myself, and I'm joined as also by the happiest man in the world, a man who, on my camera at the moment, has the most symmetrical face I've ever seen, the wonderful Ian Brownie. How are you doing?
Yeah, camera's clearly doing a lot for me, I would say. I'm going quite well, Pommy. Obviously not the result we wanted, not the performance we wanted against GWS, but, you know, another week to right the wrong and learn from it and hope it doesn't, you know, become a trend.
Hey, mate, I mean, it's been quite interesting. I mean, Ian, you're the most positive person in the world. I think when I've hit 38, I'm probably coming up to a midlife crisis, so my mindset changes. But would I be correct in thinking that some people might have overreacted here? Because I've seen some people go full France during the revolution.
Oh, look, it's an emotional thing. I think you're always going to get people of every kind of extreme, and sometimes they can be the loudest ones. But I think from the most people that I've listened to and heard, I think everyone's on the same page where, look, it was a bad performance, call it out for what it was, examine it, look for what wasn't working well. And, you know, when in some of our poor losses, you can kind of see little trends. That was the similar thing. Midfield got outworked, didn't seem to apply the pressure. Those key metrics weren't there for us. Tackle numbers, tackles inside 50. But, you know, it's our fifth loss for the season. So I don't think you need to overreact too much. But again, you know, if it happens this week against the Dogs, then you can start to worry. But they've been performing at such a high standard for the last month or so. At some stage, maybe you can't keep that for a massive time period. Sometimes there is a little bit of a slip up. It's all about what happens this week for me.
I feel better. I mean, we love our stats, me and this next guy. And Ian mentioned the tackle inside 50. It was 17% evidently from our tackle efforts, which just shows how bad. So to put that in a more real perspective, I think percentage is quite hard to imagine. Me and Mrs. Pom celebrated 10 years of marriage this year, and I probably have the same success rate in the marital sack at 10 years, 17%. So it's a very Daniel romance levels. But the SEN's very own, good mate of mine and yours, Paolo. How are you doing, my friend?
Bloody fantastic, mate. Good to be with you, lads. We've got a bit to get through tonight, which is going to be great. So I think people have, I don't know if they've overreacted, but we will see how the team pans out on Thursday, and we'll see what we're going to come up with tonight. So I would assume it's all pretty calm, but I think there's still there's some cases to be made for some VFL lads who performed well over the weekend, which is great. They've performed well in alignment with a bit of a drop off in performance, which I think is a very good sign.
Mate, I agree. And Bucky, he joins us, and some big news since Bucky was last here. Your young lad. Bucky sent us a video of his young lad kicking a goal, and I can safely say he'd be in the top 5 of Carlton's kicking technique. It was as sweet as a nut straight, Mr. Bucky.
Yeah, I think you got that one wrong, mate. That was my boy was the one in the ruck doing the tap out.
Oh, sorry.
He made his Coates Talent League debut on the weekend against the Geelong Falcons, and it was a pretty exciting day down at Chandside Park, only 500 metres from our house, and he's waited. He's been very, very patient. A little bit like the Western Jets is the team he plays for. It's a little bit like Carlton. They've been reluctant to play 2 rucks, and an opening came with the ruckman who's playing, the main ruckman's playing Vic Metro at the moment in the national championship. So Macaulay got his opportunity finally. He's only 16. He's not 17 until the end of the year, so he's still got another year next year. But he performed very strongly, mate. Like it was, they beat the top team by 8 goals. It was a perfect afternoon. I was never been so nervous in all my life. I was shocking. It was a very special day. He actually probably exceeded expectations, if I'm perfectly honest. So it was a great day for him. He's worked really hard. So thanks, Polo, for putting that stuff on the jumper punch last night too, mate. I really appreciate that.
No, thanks for sending it through, mate. He got into the best as well, the young man.
Yeah,
he got into the votes.
Got into the best. He was rucking against a 19-year-old and an 18-year-old. So no, he did really well. So it's just the start of something hopefully very special for him over the next couple of years. But it's like our boys on the weekend, it's a tough competition, and sometimes you get your ass whipped, and that's what happened on the weekend. I mean, it's just crazy, boys, to think that we were just going to waltz through for the rest of the year and go on those magical runs. Even in that first quarter, I sensed, look, you don't want to be a smart ass here, but I sensed in that first quarter that this was too good to be true. You know, it was a typical sort of away from home, blistering start. We concede one right on the bell to Darcy Jones, which was far too easy. And then just like that, the momentum changed and we couldn't get our hands on the pill. So there's no reason to overreact, but it's like anything. Like, of course, there could be some concerns there, like moving forward, if we see that trend continue. I'm glad we're playing the Dogs. I mean, they're under the pump as well, and they're a bloody good team when they're on song. So I'm glad we're going in this weekend against a team which is on their home deck. They play that ground pretty well, Marvel Stadium. I'm glad it's stiff opposition. I don't want to be playing. I mean, I think every team's going to be tough in this final run home, but I'm glad we're going up against a really tough opposition this week to see if we have learnt, to see if we are switched on, to see if we have dipped. Because I've always thought that we peaked. Like we really, I don't know about you, Pommy, but we peaked with the Geelong win, then followed up with a Richmond win, with that magical little run we've had. Maybe it's time. Maybe we're going to dip a little bit before we go again. And I don't think that's such a bad thing. I just hope it's not in Cripper's 200th.
It'll be interesting. I mean, Bucky, you nail it. I mean, the way I see it, and maybe I'm getting too old at times, you can't win everything. And I watched the game back, and I was actually chatting to Faz before this show. On the rewatch, in my notes to do the review, I wrote, first quarter remind me of West Coast Eagles last year. And I remember doing the review for West Coast Eagles last year and saying I didn't think it was as good as people thought because it looked like a training drill. It looked like one of Mark Murphy's captains runs. And it was funny because the second quarter we played exactly the same. We just didn't get any luck and they'd close shop. So it felt like we were one pace and just got everything our way in that first quarter. So it was good to watch as a fan, but I think when you take the emotion out of it, I agree with you, Bucky. I think maybe the writing was on the wall because you're never going to get lucky 4 quarters.
No, I totally agree, mate. It was like, we were sort of kicking goals out of our ass, really. Like Williams was kicking those magical goals and Harry got on the end of the few, and it was almost like shit. TDK, I remember looking at TDK in that first quarter and thinking this is the best player in the competition. He was just doing stuff that really he shouldn't have been doing against Briggs, and then it all sort of changed at quarter time. As soon as Darcy Jones kicked that goal, it was game on, and we just couldn't respond for pretty much probably a quarter and a half, really, which was probably the most disappointing thing in that game is we couldn't at least just to stop their momentum just slightly, not to let it become such a blowout in such a quick amount of time. That was probably the most disappointing thing because we've seen it before. We saw it against Sydney only 4 or 5 weeks back.
Good time to learn your lesson, though, with so much time and so much time to go. And Bucky, you went in this week. I'm actually proud of our selection panel. No one's gone mental, so it's probably because we haven't got Let Dog here. but no
Yeah,
one's flung the axe.
This was so bloody hard. I sort of looked at it. I just kept looking at it, and then I get up, go to the fridge, grab a drink, and I come back and look at it, and I wanted to omit a few more plays, but I just thought, no, you're not going to drop blokes off the back of one poor performance, and you need some stability. But in saying that, I think I don't know. I spoke to Paul. Palo and I were just sort of texting, I think, after the game, and I was a little bit concerned about, and almost we've gone in a little bit defensive with a real defensive mindset, which I don't mind, but I don't know. I feel against the Western Bulldogs we'll need an extra mid because they've just got so many numbers through there, particularly if they get it right. So I brought Hewitt back in. I thought he was pretty unlucky to be out, if I'm perfectly honest. And unfortunately, I'm dropping Ollie Hollands. I just think it's probably time he goes back and gets a bit of form under his belt. I don't think it will happen. I think Voss will play him. But I like the idea of bringing Cottrell back up onto that wing. And allowing Chincotta to play on Bailey Dale. I think he's the one who gives them that drive across half back and make Dale accountable. I was confused with Chincotta's role on the weekend. Was he with Cornelio? Was that who he was playing on? Was he tagging Cornelio on the weekend?
So he had Cornelio till the 22nd minute mark of the first. He finished the quarter on Daniels. Second quarter, he started on Whitfield. Third quarter, about 12 minutes, he went to Toby Green and finished the game on Toby Green.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, we were pumping, or I was pumping it up the week before that he played on three players. He played on, what was it? He played on Vlostone, he played on Rioli for a period of time. He also played on Taranto, so I was pumping that up as being very flexible, but nothing seemed to work. I think when he's going to a midfielder, he starts out of the square. Is that correct, Pom? Like he actually starts out of the square, then goes to them once the. But I just felt Cornelio was so damaging in the middle of the ground, particularly in that second quarter, and there was an opportunity to maybe even bring Chincotta into the guts to actually play that traditional tagging role on Cornelio for predominantly the whole game, rather than just hanging off the back of the square then coming in. But yeah, I've thought Ollie Hollands needs to go back. Got to bring Motlop in. Think it's time. I think he's served his little bit of time in the VFL after having an injury interrupted start to the year, and I think his form is just slowly built. So there you go, boys. And I think Fantasia, given I think that's the second time in 3 weeks has he been subbed out. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And he had that purple patch against the Tigers. But who knows what Vossi's going to do? Fantasia probably plays, but I just think we need a little bit more spark and a little bit more class in our front half with Motlop coming in. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we needed to get Hewitt back in. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know. There's something amiss with our midfield. I can't put a finger on it. It's not that we're hot and cold. I just think, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about our midfield overall. And I think really when you look at it on paper, it should be our strength. But if you take Walsh out of the game, yeah, I just feel like we're not getting a hell of a lot from. I know Cherry's only been back for 2 weeks now. Kennedy's serviceable. Akers is a gun on his wing. He provides that as well. But I don't know. I feel like we're a little bit thin in the midfield, and we shouldn't be. I just don't feel like we're getting enough other than Cripps and Welsh. And if Welsh is down, we really struggle. So bringing Hewitt back in just bolsters that, and it allows Elijah Hollands to be a lot more creative as that high half forward and releasing him rather than going. I don't think that's necessarily worked, him going into the guts at centre bounces. I'd much prefer him to be playing that high half forward role and being really creative across half forward. But I don't know about you guys, but our midfield can be just really hot or quite cold. And yeah, and even when we were winning games, we were questioning our midfield at times this year. I don't think they've necessarily really hit their straps yet, other than, say, Patrick Cripps. Would that be a fair assessment?
Probably, yeah. I don't think it's the best midfield we've seen.
And it's a problem. We said
I think last year it looked, because it was so stoppage based, it looked a lot more dominant. Where this year it's a lot more passive. I did want to ask you a question though, Bucky. Do you think, and I'm glad you mentioned Pom Carter because I talked about it in the review, that first quarter, Cornelio had 5 touches, went at 20%, and looked shocking. And Walsh had the most touches he did in any quarter and found a bit of freedom. Once Cornelio lost the tag, it almost allowed GWS to solely target using Tom Green and co. Sam Walsh's running patterns, which then freed Cornelio up to almost be like Cherrer is meant to be for us, the loose one out the back. Do you think that it's a lot of people say Hewitt allows Cripps to do Cripps things? Do you think that we've seen the best of Walsh over the last week? He was sensational and arguably he's a 3 Brownlow votes. Do you think maybe that is the secret? Because we see Chad Warner at Sydney, they rely on taking a player out so Chad Warner can almost be loose and undefendable. Is that something that you're looking at with Pom Carter?
Oh, definitely. And I actually wouldn't mind given Fantasia, well, if I have Fantasia out who's been part of that wing rotation, I wouldn't even mind Walsh being released as well through the wings. Whether he becomes part of that 3-way rotation through the midfield onto a wing to release a Cottrell or a Akers when they go off the ground, just so he's not always in the middle of the ground as such. But yeah, I just thought Cincotta was underused last week. I really did. I just didn't know what, and I felt like we were so defensive. Like we had Cottrell, we had Cincotta, but we lost our ability to actually win the ball. And I feel like Cincotta, when he tags hard, he actually can find the pill. He actually can find it himself. I think he was underused last week through the middle of the ground. And I totally agree, mate. If he does go in there to become a run-with player, that will allow a little bit more freedom for someone like Sam Walsh. It really would. But yeah, I don't know about you guys. It just was quite a confusing sort of setup last week with both Matthew Cottrell and Alex Cincotta. I felt like they were far too underused and far too defensive in the wrong part of the ground.
Any questions, Paul or Ian?
Not really from my end. I think the 2 wins are pretty. I think you can make a case for both of them pretty strongly, to be honest. I think with the Bulldogs midfield, the amount of rotations they have going through there, I think the Hewitt addition without bringing a midfielder out is actually not the worst idea. Not the worst idea. What about Cottrell's? What about Cottrell? So his form before he did the foot was it lock, stock, barrel 23? I don't think it is.
No, I don't think so either, mate. But I think once Voss has made that decision to bring him in, if Ollie Hollins was in cracking form, and look, he's a second-year player, he doesn't need to be racking up 25 possessions or like a Blake Acres, but we're not getting a lot of impact from. I actually thought Ollie Hollins was too bad in that third quarter. I thought he
agreed. I thought he got his hands on it at least. He's trying stuff.
But I don't know. I just feel like they've brought Matthew Cottrell in now. His body is obviously okay. He's got a game under his belt. They like what he does, particularly defensively. He's pretty smart. He can kick goals. He can push forward, gets back. I think his best spot is that wing. And coming up against the Dogs in a really important game, we'll need some strength as well. The only one I sort of thought about a little bit was Brody Kemp, but he was really thrown to the wolves last week. I thought,
wasn't he? Yeah.
Oh God, he was just the poor bastard had to play on one of the best key forwards in the game, which isn't his go. And a lot of people saying, okay, if Kemp doesn't play, it's Marchbank, but against the Dogs, I'd be more inclined to. If Kemp was going out, I'd be probably more inclined to bring Lewis Young in to play on Sam Darcy. That's probably what would happen if Kemp did go out. But I think we'll stick with the back line. I think the back line's okay. I feel that they were just under the pump last week because the midfield were just shocking. To concede 60-odd inside 50s.
Completely agree.
To put that back 6 or 7 under the pump. Wiedering wasn't there at times. McGovern wasn't there at times. I mean, poor Brody Kemp. I know he's copying it, but shit. I mean, during that patch, that second quarter, no one was going to stop bloody Jesse Hogan.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
Like he was.
We did Kemp no favours, mate. No favours whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm actually quite comfortable with the back line. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's okay. I think a lot of those players in that back line were down last week, including Sard, Boyd. Newman probably had his worst game for the season. But I expect all those to hit back strongly. So that's not a concern for me. And I think the forward line is going okay as well. I think we're pretty dangerous if we give them opportunities. I'm actually really giving it to the midfield this week. And obviously it starts with TDK. I did think about pitting it. I really did. I thought playing both. I don't know. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that yet, but I'd be putting it on all of them, to lift this week, including, we mentioned Adam Shearer, but also Sam Walsh. You've got Kennedy in there, bring Hewitt in there as well. Like they've got to really stamp their authority in this game, and it's not just for one quarter either. It's it's a 4-quarter performance like that midfield because they were well beaten last week. They were smashed. They were smashed.
Yeah.
I think it's worth noticing as well that McGovern and Whittaker could hardly walk. So from half time, Whittaker ran 3 kilometres. So do the maths. Like this is a man who ran 15 kilometres 3 weeks ago. So I think the Kemp on Hogan if McGovern and Whittaker didn't have that knock, I think the matchup would have changed. But like I said it in my review, if people were saying put Whittaker on Hogan, Whittaker couldn't move. Hogan would have kicked 38.
Yeah, exactly.
Like honestly, Whittaker's mobility was my nana, and she died when I was 16. So do the maths. She ain't very mobile, the old lady. But Ian, do you have any questions for the great bookie?
Oh, I mean, you basically answered my question. I was mainly going to ask if there are any considerations to bring in Pieto just because the Doggies have a more serviceable second ruck, but you basically answered it for me there. So I really don't have any questions. I like the changes.
Yeah, and I mean, with that situation, I mean, Tim English isn't the strongest ruckman. He's very capable and very good. What he does really well is go forward and take marks and kick goals. Same with Darcy, but they're not strong bodies, unlike Briggs. So that's probably the reason why I didn't in the end. And I just think too, we need to be pretty bloody quick in this game. When I say quick, I think we really need to cover the ground really well in this game. So as many sort of runners we can get is going to be bloody important against the Western Bulldogs. So it's probably the reason why I didn't go with 2 ruckmen.
Mate, I thought your son might have converted you into the dual ruckman. Prepare for when he's drafted.
I've been sort of like just going, what the fuck? Sorry, I shouldn't swear, but why aren't they playing 2 ruckmen here at the Western Jets? You know, they've been playing a the sort of hybrid sort of medium, well, not medium forward, that sort of 191, 192 as the second ruckman. But I'm not ready for the. I reckon the thing that the thing, I don't know, boys, but Pitnet's in such good form. Like, he's in
Yeah.
such good form.
Yeah.
He was played really well against Richmond. He's dominated the couple of VFL games he's played. He's in ripping form. But you could almost just play Pitnet, not De Conning, and I think we'd still be okay. That's probably the situation at the moment. If they said, look, TDK's not right, his ankle's not right, he's too sore, and Pitnet come in, I'd be happy because Pitnet's form is sensational. He's in ripping nick at the moment. So to have him as a backup at the moment, that's a luxury. But whether we can play two of them, because I'm just not sold with the TDK forward stuff. I'm just not, and I don't think I ever will be.
Fair, no, fair, and you helped me because I went the same as Bucky. Ollie having a rest. Now, I'm going to explain it because those sharp eagle observers will know that I am team Oliver Hollands. So 2 reasons, well, 3 actually. First reason, my good mate, me and Faz, told Faz that I had issues picking this team. I was a bit like Bucky. I spent about 2 hours today and about 12 different players got dropped, and I had good reasons for all 12. Jordan Boyd was on the chopping block as I tried to change some things up. Like, I was trying to really fiddle with the team because I think Voss doesn't know the balance of the team when everyone's fit. And I remember saying round 6, I felt like the injuries might help Voss because he can build a system and not really have any options but the guys fit. And we're seeing now guys fit. Suddenly, it's who's the best role player for this role and who's got the best strength. So what I did is I brought Cottrell in, and I thought Newman's been playing in that advanced role, moving back to his old role of defending. I think he's a great defender. People have forgotten about it because of his attacking prowess. And I brought Pitnet in over Hewitt. Now, I was thinking about it. Hewitt is brilliant, and I love Hewitt, but Kennedy, when he's played in that midfield role, looks sensational at times. Looks sensational. So I'm still of the school, it's one or the other. And I tried to look at this. If you won that game, who was droppable? And I was like, I don't think Kennedy was droppable at all. And I don't think Hewitt could have given me any more than Kennedy. But the Pitnet one, so I've got a bit of team news from one of my spies who works at the Doggies, and Rory Lobby's expected to go forward this week and no longer play down back as he has done the last couple of weeks. So he's going to be ruck forwarding. So I thought this is the week to bring Pitnet in because next week he's got Tristan Zeri, and I don't want to see 1 week and then drop him. I want to see them get this synergy because I think it can work. And I think everyone always brings Pitnet in with Hewitt. So I think their defence, exactly, Damian, is vulnerable because Caulfield is probably going to have to take one of our big guys. And that's what he did last week against Port, and it ended up as disaster. So Motlop comes in, spread their back line. Kemp gets another week. Hopefully McGovern and Wheater in a fit. Cottrell plays that more aggressive role. Go back to 6 down the back. And I felt like that's a strong team. I don't want to see Kennedy and Cripps anymore in the ruck. I want them as permanent midfielders. So I thought, let's do it. Let's see Pitnet here.
Yeah, I'm happy. Look, I'm with the Pitnet thing. I sort of agree. If you can't do it 1 week and keep sort of swapping and changing, you got to give it a couple of weeks. And if it leads into, you're going to be up against a monster and Tristan Cherry, the following week, then yeah. Are you thinking Lob's? I still think Lob will play in defence because Liam Jones is still unavailable. Is that correct?
Correct.
He is. Yeah. He is. Yes, but there was a statement made in the press conference that Bosslinger wasn't ready. That Bevo mentioned that a couple of players in the VFL who stood out last week, which is Garcia and Bosslinger, that they had good games, but they don't think it's AFL standards. So when he was pressed about the back line, It sounded like they were going to manipulate it from their team. But from all I'm saying is, I can only pass on the source I was given, that Rory Lobb today at training played forward and mid and ruck.
So who would be their key defenders if that happens? Ugur Koken.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex Keith.
Keith comes back in.
Will Keith come back in?
Keith Buku Karmas would swing back, and Caulfield would take, you'd imagine, Charlie, because Charlie likes to play that type of role.
Yeah, that was it. What's his? How do you pronounce his name, Pommy? The kid from Western Australia, the
Busslinger.
Yeah, I watched him on the weekend play against Werribee down at Churnside Park. He's a monster
player.
Yeah.
He didn't play that well, but he's physically ready to go. I know that he's just signed a 2-year deal. Sometimes that means a debut, but geez, they'd be going in pretty bloody weak down back if it's Buku Karmas, Keith, and Caulfield. That's party time if we can get some clean ball inside forward 50. That would work in our favour. Because O'Donnell's out as well, isn't he?
Yeah, O'Donnell and Norton are confirmed that, and Waitman is one of them dodgy late tests. So they're not really expecting anyone back.
Yeah, because Buku Karmas is more your sort of intercept defender rather than a lockdown. Keith's your classical sort of dour defender, and Caulfield, he's pretty much a bloody running half back, isn't he? He's got some size about him, but nothing more than 180, 189, maybe 190.
191, I think he is. I just had a look.
191 he's a little smaller than Kent. I mean, I think their backline's interesting because I think all of their defenders are like Brody Kemp. Even Busslinger likes to play loose. He doesn't really like that lockdown role. And like, I actually hope Busslinger would play because I don't think he's like Buckley. And in my preview, I warned about Buckley. The guy's boring, but he doesn't fall. He'll stick to his job. He won't leave the goal square. And I feel like that's Charlie's weakness. Charlie's weakness is discipline. But if you want to attack him, I feel like Charlie enjoys that little battle. So I feel like Busslinger will be in a horrible place should he play, because I think Charlie will want him to lead to the ball.
Oh, I think whoever gets Harry, I think, you know what? I think Harry's becoming the more difficult matchup for the opposition at the moment. I think for the whole year, because of his running ability and his power to get up the ground, get back, marks the ball at its highest point above his head. I think he's the one now that I know Charlie's got the scrutiny on him, particularly from the weekend and the last couple of weeks he's been down. But I think Harry's the one that the opposition are now going, fuck, this guy's the one that we need to try and stop. So, that's a nightmare matchup. I'd be very surprised if Lobb and your source, Pommy. I'd be very surprised if they take Lobb away from the back line, particularly with the form Harry's in. That's just my gut feel.
I do think he'll play down back, but I think the more important thing was when he's rucking, I think he'll go forward. So that was how I took the intel. That he hasn't trained with the forward group for 2 weeks. Today he did. And it looked like he was heavily rucking and then going forward. So I think it might be a case of like Harry when he rucks for us. He starts forward, then Harry goes to the wing when he's rucking, and he's that exit kick, and he kind of is out of the forward line. I think it'll be the opposite way for them. But that's why I brought TDK and Pitternet, because I was like you. I watched him in the VFL, and I love Pitternet's work as kind of that interceptor in the middle of the park, which I think allows us to spread a little bit better when we're defending, where this week I thought we got congested. But then TDK can run with Tim English. And I'm with you. I don't think TDK's a forward. I think he looks better when he goes defending with the ruckman when they go on the forward line. So I think that helps our back line out, that if Tim English is there, TDK, because I think that's the danger with the back line. Everyone says they're tall forwards. Sam Darcy's 1.4 goals a game, and he's 208 centimetres. So that height does fuck all for him. So I think it's more of an issue when they all rest them players with our back line. So having two, it allows TDK just to roam one-on-one with Tim English all game.
Yeah, I like it. I think they might have their hands forced as well, Pommy. If you know, with Norton out, it might mean that Sam Darcy has to stay forward for the whole game rather than ruck, you know, like or spend less time in the ruck. And I mean, that's a big out for them not having Norton. So they might need to play Sam Darcy as a permanent key forward. I think he scares the living daylights out of me, Sam. I think he can play. He's a talent. I hope he doesn't fire on Saturday night. He's very mobile. He's pretty tough too. Like you look at that Paul. You look at him and you think, big, gangly, tall, but he's tough.
Nah, his attack on the ball is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's
beautiful baller.
Yeah, yeah. And Ugur Koken is dangerous. I'm glad what's his face isn't playing Norton. He can have a day out as well. But yeah, I don't mind it, Pom. I think you've put forward a really good case for Pitnet to come in with TDK.
Ian, I know you hate Pitnet. so come for me.
Oh, I've got nothing against it. It's the hard thing for me when doing this is who comes out and trying to get that balance right. But the team selection right now that you almost touched on at the start of this, it's so difficult because we're starting to get so many players back from injury and trying to test it out and find the right balance. It's so difficult. The back line's really the only line that looks pretty set. That back seven, there's no real need to make any changes, but everywhere else, we haven't kind of found what is the best form of that. Midfield, Chera's come into it. How is that working? How's the two rucks? Forward line, we're starting to get a few of those half forwards back in and our Motlop in as a small forward. We still don't know what the right mix is, and maybe that will take a few weeks to still gel once they come in. It might not work straight away. And as far as the rucks, I have no issue with that. My one question's more like Chera at the moment. He's come in and maybe he can be the one that the scrutiny goes towards as far as the midfield not working. I don't necessarily think it's down to one player, but where do you see Chera at the moment? His form hasn't been great coming back into the team. It's meant that a guy who's played some pretty good footy in Hewitt has moved out. How are you finding his form and how can we get him back into the form that we saw last year?
I think it's tough when he comes straight back in, to be honest. Like, he's come straight back in. I think he's finding his feet because the team he's playing in now is alien to the team that he came in, that he left. Like, it's playing a total different brand and it's kind of got that synergy. You see it. There's certain players now, Cripps and Elijah seem to have a sixth sense at the moment. And I did feel, like what Bucky was saying, everyone went really fucking defensive this week. Like, to see Ollie Hollands deeper than Sard and Nick Newman actually scared me because I'm like, you're a winger? Do you know what I mean? Like, how are you further behind? But then you look at Chera, he was more defensive. Walsh, like, his heat map this week looked like he was trying to draw a dildo, but pointing towards our goal, where usually it's this wonderful expanse of sexiness. So I agree with you. I think you've just got to stick with it. I think the old Carlton would be try and pigeon them in. So that was my game plan this week, was Cottrell over Ollie, give him a rest, make Nick Newman stay back. Ollie's more attacking. Akers likes to drop back anyway. And give Chera, who people forget, he's an incredible tackler, let him have a bit more defensive responsibility with Kennedy over Hewitt. Because I felt like if we brought Hewitt in, the tendency is to even be more defensive. And I don't want that. So that's to answer your question. Let Chera be Chera. Get that synergy. I feel like Walsh and Chera, it's going to be one of them games where they will break it up. And that synergy needs to refind itself because it has been a different midfield for 7 weeks. And he's the new kid, really, again.
Yeah, love it.
There it is. I'm pitting it in. I'm a mad fan. And another new guy, Paolo. You brought in the man who spells his surname wrong, Cunningham.
The man, the myth, the mystery, the legend that is David Cunningham. I thought he was brilliant in the reserves on the weekend. I've dropped Cotters. I just think I don't think his form. I know they're probably taking a long-term view with it, right? Hence why they brought him straight in last week. And I did watch it, and I actually want to commend you for the video you put together with Nick Power. It's probably some of the best work you've done. It was absolutely fantastic. And for those who haven't watched it, by all means, go on this channel and make sure you go and watch it. All about strength and conditioning. The difference between fitness and match fitness is probably a big thing for Matt Cottrell. But I just don't. Even before he was out with the foot, I don't think his form wasn't that crash hot. I like him as a player.
That was shit. It was shit.
His form was.
It was terrible. Well, it wasn't terrible, but it was.
I know those roles can sometimes be, and we always say it, and we always attest to it. They can sometimes be low output, but he was a ghost on the weekend. And I know we didn't get our hands on the ball, and there are a lot more. But for him to warrant, and look, maybe the training form was good, but I was happy for him to come out. I was happy for a guy like Cunningham to play the high half forward role and potentially roll through the wing alongside Ollie Holland as well. And I just think Cunningham's form needs to be rewarded. I thought he was great on the weekend against the GWS VFL team, reserves team, and Motlop in for me as well. It was an umming and ahhing between Orazio and Motlop, and we know Motlop is a player now who's been groomed to potentially play the role we see Orazio play, and whether or not he has the running capability to be able to sort of, I don't think we're going to see Motlop on a wing or anything like that, but I think his form needs to be rewarded from the weekend. But you could also make the case that if you're looking to bring in a pure finisher, that Owies might also make way. So there was a bit of umming and ahhing between Orazio and Owies. Did anyone find it strange that Owies was the sub?
I was surprised.
I don't mind it, but I thought, I don't know.
Yeah,
weird.
Boyd asked it, and that was going to be my question here to you. I thought, I remember Terry last week, he was Team Cottrell. I thought Cottrell's not going to learn anything in the VFL. I thought the sub would have been perfect here because I felt like you and Bucky. I don't think Cottrell was breaking the door down.
No.
But I felt like Ollie Hollands was probably Cottrell's job. So it would make sense if you were going to have a sub, keep Owies on, and Cottrell comes on maybe for the second half to give you that point of difference. But I agree with you, Paula. I thought Owies as sub was mindless to me because I don't know if anyone watched the rating show. He was the second best small forward per second than anyone else. Like he dwarfed the others defensively.
Well, it's also perplexed me given his body of work this season and the output. This is the first time we've seen someone outside of Harry and Charlie actually bob up with goals. Right? Because every time for the last 25 years, we've either had one goal kicker and then there's just no one else. Now for the last 2 or 3 seasons, we've had 2 goal kickers in Charlie and Harry. And now we've added in a third and they've cut him. They've made him sub. Like he's still part of the team, I know that, but it just if I'm looking at, and I know they're completely 2 different roles, right? The form of Matt Owies in that role compared to the form of Matthew Cottrell in his role, it didn't, like the selection to me didn't marry up, right? That whole, if you're going to make the case for one in one role and make the case for the other in the other role, there was no way known that Matt Cottrell just walked into this side, right? There are more intricacies to it. I get it.
When did Cottrell go out of the team? What game was it?
It was after the Pies game, might have been.
Yeah.
Was it a bit later?
I think he played the Melbourne game on the wing, I believe. They changed his role in that game, and he was awful.
Well, he was poor against Collingwood too. I know he kicked that goal late in the game, but he hasn't. I haven't seen him. So
basically, we got smashed by Sydney. He didn't play in that game. Is that correct? Yep. But our form has been super without him. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying shouldn't be part of
No.
conversation or part of the squad or part of the. But we were going along really well without Matthew Cottrell in the team, whatever role that was. And I know they wanted to play on Whitfield, but it's a really strange one that he came straight back in.
Yeah.
Straight back in.
Yeah. I was so when it initially occurred, I was happy to see him back because I like him as a player. But it was just, I think everyone, as soon as they saw the team selection, everyone was like, "Oh, this has come out of nowhere." No one. Yeah. We had him. Did anyone have him in calculations to be picked last week?
Terry
it was never mentioned.
Nothing other than the sub.
I was thinking at least 2 weeks in the reserves.
Yeah. Why not earn it? Everyone else has, like, Motlop's done that. He's gone away and had to prove it. Everyone else in the team, it wasn't like there was, I guess, a position super up for grabs. Everyone was performing. And I agree with you, Paolo. I think it was a bit strange as well, just the type of player. You take away maybe that goal presence of an Owies. The other forwards in there, you know, Williams has definitely got that goal sense, but you're playing Fogarty, Chincotta down there, Elijah Hollins, those kind of guys. They're those high half forwards that kind of float in between as well. I guess like Fantasia felt weird to change the formula that seemed to be working so well.
Yeah. It was very, very, it just seemed a bit odd. Look, again, it's not, I like Matthew Cottrell as a footballer. I think he's well and truly going to be part of our team. When we push for finals and push for what we really want, but it just seemed a little bit odd. And then Cunningham, I thought his form was I really liked this game on the weekend. And I think this is a game that we could use him in because I think his ability as well to also be an extra midfield rotation may just, because I love George Hewitt, right? I think he does a fantastic role for us in midfield, but Voss did allude to the idea that Chera came in for Hewitt with regards to defensive ability. So the move was made there, and they're not going to drop Chera for George Hewitt. We highly doubt that. So I think from a midfield rotation perspective, the only reason I thought Hewitt wouldn't be, from my end, selected was because if I was to bring in David Cunningham to potentially play that high half forwardish role that we've seen him ascertain, he can also become a midfield rotation if we need it as well to try and quell those Bulldog numbers too. So, and he's had a nice stint in the Rezzies. They've really built up his minutes over the last couple of weeks. And we know his body's, we know what his ailments are, the soft tissue, and he's been terribly unlucky with that. So now he just needs to hopefully show it at AFL level. I think, I think both Motlop and Cunningham deserve spots. And the reason I've picked them both is because they're both attacking players. They're both players you bring in when you're there to win. They don't really have, Motlop can have that defensive pressure too. But I think from a winning perspective and a game mindset perspective, they're both aggressive players, which I think our mindset lacked that aggressiveness last week when we went into our shells after Wiedering went down and we started sitting back. Whereas players like these two, they're not going to be doing that.
Would you say it would be his last chance?
Cunners?
Yeah.
Yeah, close to it, isn't it? I mean, he's uncontracted. He's in the VFL. His body's letting him down. Elijah Hollins has come into the team. Williams has taken a forward spot. The midfield looks quite set at the moment. Yeah, you'd probably say that. You'd probably say that. Yeah, he would know that too.
Do the Dogs generally use a sort of run with player through the midfield? Like, I'm just potentially looking at what teams have done with Sam Walsh, what Sydney did against. Do they generally have someone that can play that role?
Libba.
Yeah. So, do we just say to Walsh, look, you got to work through that, or is there a strategy there that to potentially bring in that extra mid if it was Hewitt to push Walsh half forward, do what he used to do, come up to the ball rather than, I don't know. I just feel like if it is Libba, that's a tough day at the office.
I think that's why You know what? I'm going to give Cotters a bit of love here. That he played that Orazio role this week, and I actually think that's the secret to unlocking our midfield. I think that's why Voss has persevered with it. And do you remember VFL Cottrell before he broke into the seniors? He played that like inside-outside player. He wasn't a pure winger. And we used to have Setterfield on the wing, and because Cottrell was quick and could run, it was obvious that Cottrell should play wing, not fucking Setterfield. But everyone was obsessed with Setterfield on the wing. At the time, Teague was obsessed with whoever the quickest inside midfielder is, play him on the wing. Like, I remember David Teague calling me once and saying, "Can you run, Pom? Do you want to play on the wing?" And he was like, "You big?" And I was like, "Yeah, cheers, mate." But no, serious though. I look at Cottrell, and I think Connors is the same type of player. That role that can maybe be a point of difference, a burst player for minutes. Yeah. I didn't mind what they were trying with Cottrell because I think Cottrell's got something Connors don't have, and I think something that most midfielders don't have. He can run 16 Ks at speed, which means he's always going to push them. And I feel Walsh is waiting for the fourth quarter. This fourth quarter this week, no one's talked about it. It's immaculate from Walsh. So that's the one thing with Walsh, tagging his hard work. So he's only got to get to the fourth and he takes the piss.
And it's probably why the Voss is persistent with Ollie Hollands as well, because of that.
Yeah.
Because of that constant running ability, as you said, Paul. And it's not necessarily, we talk about speed. I don't necessarily see Matthew Cottrell, even Ollie Hollands, as fast players, but they run for such a long time at a high speed.
Yeah.
They're not like line breakers, but they run, endurance-wise, they run fast for a long, long time.
Correct. Yeah,
I like it, Paul. The return of Motters and Cunners.
Yeah, it's a bit bold. I'll just before I wrap up, was there also is there a way you could fit Cunningham in without taking Cottrell out? That's the other question I was contemplating today. Well,
I dropped so many players. I dropped Boyd at one point. No, because I was trying to get balance, and I agree with all of you. Like, you bring Hewitt in to that team that you've made. Whoever you drop, it fucks the balance, right? So you've got to kind of if you bring a player in specific. So I agree with you, Paul. Like, who do you You'd have to drop Ollie Hollands for Cottrell because you'd have to go can run, can tackle.
Who's Chincotta playing on? Who's Chincotta playing on, you think?
Treloar.
I said Treloar as well. I think he's the obvious matchup, just body wise and power wise, and the way they are just similarly built. I think he's the because I think Bont is just a bit too. I think Bont is just one of those players where you need to go head to head with him. I think he and Cripps will go head to head, I would suspect.
So you were saying if you would keep Cottrell in, who could you drop? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, if you could, So if you were to keep Cottrell in, or if you were to, could you bring Cunningham in for someone else? Right. So Motlop in for Orazio, and could you bring Cunningham in for someone else? That's what I was trying to think of with today. But I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you can't. I mean, Fogarty's defensive pressure is so important.
Yeah.
It has to be one of those sort of half forward types. It'd have to be probably Elijah Hollands, really.
Which is not going to happen.
Which is not going to happen. No.
We've asked for selection problems our entire lives as Carlton content creators, and now we've got selection problems. We're all fucking moaning about it.
And we're still angry,
I did actually say to Faz when I called him for help, saying, I wish we could go back to having 12 good footballers and then 8 people I don't care about. It was so much easier.
Oh, no, Ian.
I've gone big again. Always.
Ian, Ian is trying to break our beautiful friendship because he's killed 2 of my boys.
Oh, no.
Oh, gone big.
Take it away, Ian.
Well, I will start and say that I'm not married to anything. This is a bit for conversation, and it's so hard right now to try and fit everyone in. And I guess right now I'm trying to fit in all the players I like and trying to still find balance with it. So I think the easy one here that we all agree on is Motlop for Fantasia. It's simple. I don't need to explain much more than that. Of course, basically elevated Owies in because I think we need a little bit more of that goal sense that maybe we missed last week. And then basically Ollie Hollands makes way. Does he potentially need a little bit of a rest? His form's been fine, but I want a little bit more from him. What we saw last year, I think his best was better than I've seen this year. So it's a long season, young body. If they feel like he needs to be managed for a couple of rounds, now's the time to do it. And while I maybe don't love it because I don't think Cottrell was good at all last week, and maybe that's not sending the right message, I'm looking at the long term, giving Cottrell that wing role there for a week or two and seeing what he can do. He's the perfect replacement for that. And then I wanted Hewitt into this midfield, and it works for a few things for me because I'm not bringing in Pito, so I want a bit more physicality in there. Knowing the Dogs, that's where they win games of footy. Their midfield is really strong. We saw that be an issue for us last week. Chera's form's been a little bit iffy, and are we maybe playing one too many midfielders with adding Hewitt and not taking one away? Potentially. However, I think with Cottrell on the wing, you can maybe allow Chera to rotate there for a little bit. If Walsh is struggling with a tag from Libba, if they go that route, maybe you can break the tag by giving him a little bit of a stint on the wing. So I'm just looking for a few more rotations to basically replace Ollie Hollands, who just sits there all day and you don't need to worry about it. And then I guess that last kind of thing is someone has to make way for all these moves to happen. And look, I love Chincotta. My one thing is I still am not 100% sold on us needing a tagger each and every week and that role being there permanently. I'm always sort of subscribing to the just back yourself in. And I don't know, the last few weeks, it feels like we've kind of just had him there to play a role for the sake of it. It hasn't been this perfect storm where I saw that with Miller. I saw that with Merritt and against Port as well. It seemed like there was a specific plan and it worked. And against obviously Tom Stewart as well, whereas the against Richmond, against GWS, feels like we're just playing him because we want to. And again, this week, you could say it be that Treloar. You could say it's Bailey Dale. I don't know if that really is the right move. I just don't think this matchup this week is perfect. You can't tag Bont. He's like Cripper. It's not going to work. So because of balance and adding Motlop as well into that team in the forward line, I can't find that spot for Chincotta. So it's really harsh. And maybe he could be that perfect sub, but I just love what Cunningham's done in the VFL the last few weeks. And is that attacking sub that I always like. The front half player adds flexibility on the wing if you need. If the midfield you're finding it's too slow with Kennedy, Hewitt, it's not working. Take one of them out, bring in Cunners to play half forward, wing, midfield. They've tried to go for as much balance while still, I guess, making a few adjustments.
Great. Very well put together argument there. Very well put together.
I was just nodding my head in agreement. Yeah. You know, I can't see it happening. I can't see them dropping Chincotta, but you nailed it, mate. Something didn't sit right with me last week with the Chincotta role, and even when you take it back to the Richmond game, you summed it up. It was almost like, okay, I don't think he's a good enough player, Alex Chincotta, just to be there, not really playing a specific role. And it just felt last week, what the hell was he doing? You know, like, what was he doing? I know he cashed in the Richmond game, kicked a couple of goals, but if we're going to play a run with player or a tagger, he needs to play that role and pretty much stay on the same player for the whole game and keep them out. Yeah, this swapping and changing in game and sort of throwing him all over the joint.
Does him a disservice too, I think. I think it does him a disservice. Do you think, and I don't know if you boys agree, do you reckon that would the coaches be saying, look, I don't know if this is true or not, would they'd go in with a specific role for him to say, okay, this is the player you're locking down, And then in match committee, would they say, okay, if this doesn't work, you go to him. If that doesn't work, you go to him. If he gets it, you go to, do you know, like, are they really saying you've got to have like 3 or 4 options? Do you know, I suppose they would, but how do you plan for that during a match committee or during, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. You've got to be flexible too.
You know, and I'm not like it's an elite environment. Like they're not prepared for these type of things. But how prepared can you really be? It's like any role. It's like any play. It's like it's almost like saying to Charlie, all right, well, this is your role this week. And if it doesn't work for the first 35, 40 minutes and someone else, well, you can go here. And if that's not working in the next 5, 10 minutes, well, now you've got to go here. But how much preparation is he really doing for that? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I think he'll play
role.
this. Yeah. I think he'll play this week because I think there's a role for him. I think they've got a lot of damaging players, the Western Bulldogs, and to be able to take at least one of them out would be advantageous for us. So I don't think it will be Bontempelli. I think the Trelaw's a really good shout, and obviously Bailey Dale's the other one who's one of the best distributors in the game across half back. He's allowed to do what he likes, but I mean, Fogg could play that role. You know what I mean? He could play that defensive role if need be. But, I mean, I like your talk on the wings too, Ian, because I don't think we've probably spoken enough about if we're going to be dropping Orazio, he has been that wing rotation. He's been the one that's released Ollie Hollins and released Akers to have a rest, and he's gone to the wing. So we need to – who's going to play that role now? Who's going to play that wing rotation role? Could it be we're rolling one of those midfielders, those running midfielders through there, whether it's Sam Walsh, whether it's Chera at times? I remember last year we played Chera on a wing and it was just disastrous. Was that last year? Remember that?
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great.
He rocked up that. He had that big knee bandage on.
Yeah, couldn't move.
I think it might have been in Voss's first year, maybe.
Yeah, it was against St
Kilda. Yeah,
he had a bleed in his knee or something. There was something happened that.
I think that was more to do with his body rather than the fact that. But no, I like it, mate. I just feel at times when we play so defensive with a Cottrell and also a Cincotta, you miss out on winning a little bit of the ball through the middle of the ground because you are so defensive. But I reckon he'll play. I feel like he will play.
It feels like he's pretty much locked in now. It's just that interesting kind of, I guess, conundrum in, do you want that role week in, week out of a negating style player that takes an opposition best 5 player out of the game? Or do you, now that we've got Chera fit, now that we've got the forward line seemingly back together, there's not a lot of players that are out injured that sort of aren't up and about for selection. Is there a spot for that role, or are we better off playing our best players? Because that's the debate. And if maybe does he go back into defense and play a bit more of a shutdown role that way? And then who do you move out? Is it, because I'm not moving, Newman, Sard. I think Cowan plays a bit of a different role with a bit of height, so I don't want to do that. Is it Boyd? But I think Boyd's better going offensively. So it's just a really difficult decision right now for a lot of players. And I think regardless of what team gets selected, I'm just hoping over this next month or so, now that fingers crossed everyone can stay healthy, we're going to at least learn what our best, squad looks like and the right balance in those positions.
Do you think, and I've got 2 questions for your team, right? So first, I've got to go into bat for good friend of the channel, Alex Pomcotter, right? And so you've killed him. That'll make me sad on playing the game.
Before you go, Tommy,
pardon?
I've got to run, boys. I've got to run.
All right.
Much love. Good luck to your son this weekend.
No, they've got to buy.
Oh,
well, but they've got Tassie Mariners the following weekend in Launceston. So
big.
I'll look out for him, and I'll enjoy his ruckcraft.
Yeah, he'll be racing up the draft boards before we know it.
I'm looking
Good on
forward.
you, boys. Speak soon.
Cheers, mate.
See you, Bucky.
See you, mate. Bye.
Okay, I've got 2 questions, right? So Pomcotter, right? When I was going through my team, right, I did flirt with this mindset, right? That I tried to look at the team and I was like, Kennedy and Hewitt can't play in the same team that has Pitternet.
Yep.
But then I also thought, can Pom Cotter play in that midfield as well? Because if he's not tagging, is he good enough to play without tagging? So my question to you, Ian, is twofold. One, the wing, like you say, I don't like Cottrell on the wing. It didn't work this year. Would you be willing, though, to put Walsh on the wing? Because I felt when Walsh was on the wing 2 years ago and then pinch hitting in the midfield, that was the best foot Walsh we've ever seen. I felt playing him outside, you can't tag a winger. Getting him out in freedom is his strength, and then he bursts through stoppage. And two, which would you rather have? Hewitt, who is a defensive midfielder, or Cincotta, who probably could just only tag in the game as a pure tagger? Which mindset do you subscribe to on that one?
Yeah, I guess they're great questions. And I mean, there's also scope weirdly for Cincotta to almost play a bit of wing. We saw it a little bit in the VFL. And I don't know, I think that almost dock role, kind of playing in a few spots, playing half forward, playing midfield, playing on the wing, is that something Cincotta could find himself if we're not using that direct tagging role potentially? And I guess Walsh, I don't mind him spending some time there, but I think primarily I want our best midfielders around the ball, and there's probably better ways to free him up. You know, the wing role is so specific. You need to keep your width. You need to be in that right spot. I think sometimes our midfield can get sucked into the ball, and if we're trying to do that with him on a wing, I think that's just going to hurt us out the back if we don't win that contested ball straight away and we aren't clean. So I don't love more wing time compared to on-ball time, I guess, for Walsh, but rotating there a little bit is fine. And then the other part of it, I think it's just that I trust Hewitt more all round. And you saw that probably in the Essendon game where Cripps wasn't, firing for the whole time. He still played a really good game by the end, but he wasn't at his 100% best. Walsh was nowhere kind of near it for a lot of that time. And it was Hewitt that was the midfielder that stepped up and almost took over that role, that guy who was that calm under pressure, winning that contested ball when we needed a midfielder to step up. So that's why I kind of trust Hewitt in that role a little bit more. I know he's more defensive, but if a Walshki's getting tagged out of it and Chera's still finding his feet after that long injury layoff, I just trust George Hewitt in that midfield. I love his experience in the engine room, and I've maybe shoehorned him in a little bit into this team, but I don't know. I just have so much faith in him regardless that I still think he's in our best midfield mix.
Same question to you, Paul. Are you team wing half forward on ball? I'll go back to 2021. He had the most Brownlow votes, playing 50% on the ball and the rest split between half forward and wing. I think that's the Nick Dacos model to make Walsh so offensive.
It's a good question. For me, I just think we have enough at half forward. Like, we have enough of those players who are there already. I like. Look, for me, I like him as a pure on baller. That's my take on it. I drafted him as a midfielder. He's a gun on baller. That's my take. I like him as an on baller. I don't want to tweak with him too much or tweak with the system too much. But the beauty about it is that we have the option to be able to do that. So for my point of view, I prefer him as a pure on ball. I want to see him following the contest everywhere, because that's where I think he plays his. For us as a team, I think that's where he's going to be best suited. But I think the beauty about it is that we do have the option to play him in that role now. But it's about because this is a time of year now where if you pull the wrong rein, but the beauty about it is we've got some margin for error, which is good, and him being put in a role where it might be a mistake to play 50-50 split, or it might be a mistake to not play him in that 50-50 split. I don't think I'd be shocked if that really cost us a game or anything like that. So you can probably tinker with it, but for me, for the time being, I'd just be keeping him pure on ball. But that's just me.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice sort of lever to pull if we find he is struggling again with another tag and we just need to find a bit more space. We can chuck him half forward or wing and just slowly move him back into the midfield for 5 minutes. If it doesn't work, change it back. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, try tag him again. See how you go.
Yeah, I only asked because I was doing a little bit of research for a video with Walsh, and that was when Dux started becoming the midfielder. And that year, because he took the minutes that he didn't do, and obviously there was no Adam Chera. And I was thinking, is that the Jose Mourinho, I have a plan to play Gerrard and Lampard in the same midfield? Is that accidentally the model to get the best Chera and the best Walsh, that you can float them there? And also Chera, kind of, people forget, does like going behind the ball. Suddenly you can still play Newman advanced. You can fling him out to half-back to use the ball while Walsh goes on the ball. Cottrell goes to the wing. Suddenly you've got the balance and it's already done for you. The model is already done. Treat Chera like Doc. Treat Walsh like 2021 Walsh. And Cripps and Hewitt then take that heavy on ball load while they have Elijah, Walsh, Chera floating continuously with them.
Potentially could be the way. For me, just based on what happened on the weekend, I don't want to change up a hell of a lot with everything else, right? So from my end, I'm purely looking at this game and thinking, how much do the mitigating factors in that game against GWS weigh into what you do for the rest of the season, right? So all the dominoes that were moved, and you said it too, Pommy, you can't coach for that. How many injuries can you coach for? You can't. It's almost, we're going to play this play here because he might get it. Like, it just, no coach coaches like that. To a certain point, you maybe do have insurance policies with players who can play multiple roles that can cover for blokes who go down. But for me, last week was just all here. It was just all here. You start sitting back, and then you go into this mode of, well, are we really going to exert and go up another gear when we're like, whether we win or lose, we can't go up or down. You know, we've got this massive end of the year and we've got bigger things in mind. It doesn't absolve you of not, it doesn't absolve you from playing well. But for me, it's about how much do the mitigating factors in this game, which led to the result, go into team selection and weigh up, and a weight into team selection this week. So that's Mate, what I'm looking at. I'm just happy to stay calm.
I think you nail it. I think the only position you can't cover, in my opinion, in game is key defender. So that's why I think
you can't, mate. And then Ruck, and then Charlie with apparently an ankle before the game, and
if Galv's not 100% as well,
So that's why I always think two rucks always covers the hardest position because worst case, TDK libs down back or he becomes an extra forward.
And if you saw his heat map was 65% defensive half, which was the highest defensive half number he's had in the last 4 to 5 weeks. And that's purely based on what occurred. And then you look at the output of Jacob Wiedering, his one-on-one wins, it's an outlier. And when that outlier is removed, everything's evened out. And that, 3 to 5 goal win we probably have against GWS turns into a 12-point loss. So it's not just, the context of numbers and everything will eventually, that probability will eventually come to the fore. So let's not get too worried or dive too deep into it just yet.
I'm going to be honest. I just miss Bolton.
Brendan.
Sam Allardyce is Bolton. I want 4-4-2, big bomb out the But let's pick the team. As bevtone says, you guys and girls get an extra pick because I'm feeling generous. Ian, I'll start with you. Backman, who we're saving?
Nick Newman.
All right, it's nice and easy. Mr. Paulo, what are we doing?
We'll save Sardi.
Oh, look at that. Look at how strong that backline is. With just, who am I doing? Jacob Wiedering. I'll just lump him in at fullback, the big lummox. All right, chat. I need 3 defenders. I've left Kemp at risk. You've got Akers, Boyd, Chera, Chincotta, Cottrell, Cowan, Cripps, Cunningham, Kerner, Elijah, Fogarty, Hewitt, Hollands, Kemp, Kennedy, McGovern, Mackay, Motlop, Owies, Pitternet, TDK, Walsh, Williams. All of these you can play down the back. So
I'm also very happy no one dropped Kemp.
I don't think you can drop Kemp.
Yeah, no.
Like, honestly, he's had one
One
bad game.
Exactly.
I did laugh. There was a newspaper article, and I won't reveal the journalist, but it was from The Age, who 3 weeks ago to the day he wrote the article this week saying Kemp was shit, did say that Kemp was a smoky for all Australian. and this week he was talking about, bring Marchbank in, fuck Kemp off. I was like, brilliant. Looks like Kemp, Boyd and McGovern have survived chat. Tell you what, that back line, it picks itself.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that's the only position you can't get into.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from key forwards, obviously. Like, I think Hewitt and I think Mackay and Kerner are probably guaranteed to play every week, provided they're fit. But
nice to see Lockie Cowan also not even get he doesn't even get mentioned. He's now just in. He just that's when you know that's when when that happens at selection table. I think that's when you know you've become a good player.
Mate, spot on, Paul. I made a mistake. I was talking about Cowan. It was Kemp. Well done. You've got to watch the watcher. Cowan's still there. I'll save you, Cowan, when I come to the interchange bench. We're on midfielders and followers. Ian, Ruckman, and midfielders. How are you doing?
Well, I'm actually going to be very controversial and go against my selection team that I picked, because the more I'm thinking about it, the more is so rude, but I just don't want Cottrell to play this week. So I'm going to save Ollie Hollands on the wing and go against my initial thinking.
Up and down the wing, hear the terrorists sing.
Fucking hell.
I've been convinced. Paolo's just convinced me.
Ollie's in a fucking horrible relationship with this show today. He's been bagged all game and suddenly he's in. He's like, what?
Actually, you know what? You're going to I actually gave him a vote in my 5-4-3-2-1. Actually,
he was fine.
In the third quarter, he was the only one trying to generate something. He was the only one who could get his hands on the fucking ball.
Genuinely, I was shocked with the Ollie Hollands when people were saying he's too defensive. And the week before, everyone was telling me that it's great Nick Newman plays high up now because Ollie defends for him. And I'm like, fucking, if you're Ollie, you're like, what do you want me to do? Like, but who are you saving, Paul?
It's got to be Sheriff, doesn't it? On the other wing.
Acres of space.
Bang.
Oh.
North Clare Netball Club, I think, might be a Sam Walsh, might be his burner account.
Sam, you've been busted, bro. You've been busted. Oh, God. Midfielders. You know what? It would be a miss of me when it is his 200th. Got to make sure he plays his 200th. So, chat, you need to do... you've got the following line. A ruckman and 2 followers. Ian's copping a bit of hate for bringing Ollie back.
No. God.
I'm happy to wear it, as always.
So we've got, so chat, 3 midfielders. The people you've got are Chera, Chincotta, Cottrell, Cowan, Connors, Kerner, Lidge, Fogarty, Hewitt, Kennedy, Mackay, Motlop, Owies, Pitternet, TDK, Walsh, and Williams. TDK Walsh Ches, TDK Walsh Hewitt, TDK Ches Bam Bam. I love it when the first 3 do 3 different things. Well done,
make it tough. I think we can lock in deconing, which is helpful. Straight into the
it looks like Hewitt is Chesney coming late, but it looks like Hewitt might take this out.
Big change.
That's going to make
things going left field. Mackay, the rover. That's what you want to say. I think, based on that, Hewitt has won that by 2, 3.
Okay. Right, okay. That makes things Jeez, chatter making things difficult tonight.
Oh, guess who's back? Back again.
Gee whiz.
Tell you what, I hope selection in real life is this hard.
It'd have to be.
And everyone's like, oh shit. Okay, forwards, Ian.
Motlop. Bring him in.
He's back. The Mott Dog. Mr. Paulo.
Well, we're going to save Charlie at full forward, and I think this is the week he needs to have just a little dine out. He needs a dine out. I think he
loves the Dogs.
He's due for one. Yeah. Let's get him 6 goals or more, eh?
Mate, I love it. I do it. Lucinda, I appreciate it. I like to see a bit of Harry Mackay on the ball, to be honest. Like, why not? Why not? We could do it against fucking North. Forwards, I'm going to save Lidge. He's becoming my fave.
Love it.
Yep.
Okay, chat. We need 3 forwards. You need a key forward, ideally, and 2 little baby ones. You've got Sherrichin, Cotter, Cottrell, Cowan, Cunningham, Fogarty, Kennedy, Mackay, Owis, Pitnett, and Zewell. Jack Martin's not there, North Clay. You don't have to spam chat. My eyes still do work. Don't be deceived by the glasses.
Can we put Motlop in the selections there as well?
He is.
He's been saved.
Yeah, got him on that forward.
There we go. Yep.
We got Big H, Harry, Owis, Fogg, H, Williams, Fogg, H, Williams, Fogg, Mackay, Owis, Fogg, Cotter's always. Tell you what, chat, you're testing my cognitive ability. Looks like Big H, Zach Williams, and Fogarty are winning it.
That might be the. Owis is getting a run here.
Owis getting it late.
Okay. Williams, Harry, Fogg. Owis, Fogg, Mackay.
Looks like it is Mackay. It looks like it is Z, Will, H, and Fogg.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is tight. Very tight.
Tell you what, though, right? You're in this privileged position now where whoever you pick now, you've got a quality team. Interchange. We name an extended. So, Ian, Sherrichin, Cotter, Cottrell, Cowan, Cunningham, Kennedy, Owis, Pitnett.
Yeah, wow. This is really brutal. I could genuinely make an argument for a lot. There's a really obvious one, but I kind of want to veer from that and make it a bit more fun. Because it's the extended. Let's go Cunningham.
Oh, yes. You've saved my 2 guys, mate.
Cowan was my sub. He was my lovely sub. He's still in there.
Cowan have a fuckload of C's, don't they?
They do.
Yeah,
you could call them that.
How many C's do we have on there? We've got 4 spots, and we've got 7 names. Who's the next bench player? Ian. I mean, Paulo.
Chera. Yeah.
I'm going to go Pitnett.
Oh.
Because I'm all about big boy things. Do you know what I mean? I'm all about Mandem Airlines.
Oh, my God. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Can I just say, Paul's texts at 3 a.m. when you're trying to sleep are the best, when he just finds something fucking random.
I found this tweet that there was a plane coming into a terminal on Twitter, and the plane was coming in, and it was like wrapped up in this. I don't know what they were doing with it. It must have been like a maintenance. It looked like a massive puffer jacket. And someone has retweeted Mandem Airways. I lost it. I was laughing for 15 minutes straight. Every time I'd close it and then go back into it and start laughing. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Mate, I love it.
I've ever seen.
I love it. Well, I mean, chat, you've got 2 to pick. You've gone Cowan, Cotter, Owis, Kennedy, Bam, Pom, Cotter, Cowan, Owis, Cotter. Tell you what, we've been really mean. We've been really mean here. It looks like Cowan and Owies might get it.
Kennedy's not even got a look in here. Wow.
He's had one vote.
Oh, wowee.
And the chat thinks I'm harsh on him. Come on.
Far out. Gee whiz. Good Lord.
So who was it? Owies and Cottrell won it.
Looks like it.
Chat.
Also, oh my God, I've just looked that up, Paolo. That is
legit.
legit a puffer jacket. I cannot believe how much that is legit. That's insane. On the plane.
Chin Cotter, Cowan, and Kennedy. Surprise selection punishments here. That's big man thing.
Yeah, geez,
I blame Ian.
Someone put something in the tea.
I blame Ian for saving Connors. He flew
I
it.
was going to go Cowan, but I thought it was the obvious choice. Oh, no.
Jeez.
Cowan, after four career-defining weeks.
I'll tell you what's cooked it. Hewitt coming in. That's what's cooked it. Yeah, that's what's cooked it. Hewitt coming in's completely cooked it.
Oh, wait a minute. You have got a point, actually. It's Cowan over Cottrell. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I read the person who spammed Cottrell. Good spot, Paul.
Okay, so Cowan. All right, there we go.
There we go.
How am I spamming? Probably by saying Walsh 15 times, Cunningham 15 times. You only need one vote. It's one vote. You don't need to vote for Biden 15 times. It's one vote.
Hey, we're not the American elections.
There's no mail-ins here. There's no.
Yeah, we're not the American elections. We do democracy around these parts. But you know what? Right, the Kennedy one. I feel like we've gone defensive mental here, haven't we? We've sacked everyone who's ever defended in the last 2 weeks, and we're just gone. Do you know what I mean? But I don't mind it. I agree with Dione here. I always say it's Kennedy or Hewitt, and I don't mind it. Like maybe I've ruined it by putting Pitternet in there because if you put Chin Cotter in there, it's not bad.
Yeah,
I went big with Connors.
Interesting, very interesting.
Tell you what. Well, Ian, what are you doing this week, mate? You tell me.
Yes, well, I believe at the current time, I'm also live on Blue Abroad with the Carlton versus Doggies preview. So once this is wrapped up, feel free to go over there and watch it from the start. Really good chat. Finally got Lockie back for the review of GWS and the preview, which was lovely. And yeah, there was a lot to discuss. Great timing on Lockie to find a loss to join us rather than enjoying and savoring a win. So yeah, plenty of content there. And we'll be back again, I guess, Sunday or Monday for the review on our own YouTube channel. And then on Blue Abroad every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. with the preview.
Beauty.
Spot on, mate. I'm looking forward to it. I'll put the link in there, and the link to Ian's own channel and his own show is the first one in the description. It will say follow Ian. So you just click it. Really cool. Paul, what have you got this week for us?
Just a heap of work. Be at SEN Track. Got a lot of racing, a lot of footy that we're covering this week. Untitled Blues Pod will come out next week after this game. I'll probably see you on fan cams after the game on Saturday night. We've got the Jumper Punch coming up next Tuesday as well, as usual. And yeah, actually, there's for those wondering on our channel, on the Jumper Punch channel, there's actually a really good chat with one of the great Carlton people, Dean Somberg. Just such an infectious and energetic and jubilant and joyful character. He's just the best to be around. The chat I had with him is up on our channel, the Jumper Punch channel. It's rocking all over the burbs with Dino, and we just sit down for half an hour and we just have a chat. We just have a chat about why he followed the Blues, why he loves the club, how he thinks we're going, how he thinks we're going to go against the Doggies, if he thinks we can win the flag. And yeah, it was a good chat because he's a very energetic man and he always gets fired up, but we got him in a what he calls a handbrake on mode. So it was good fun.
Hey, we're looking forward to it. Go and check that out. Links to all them are in there. So really easy. I've got to give a big shout out to my mate, Analia and Frankie. So you might see Frankie around. Frankie does sacks. Frankie sacks but he made me
wow.
this
Nice.
That's
out
unreal.
of wood. So shout out to Frankie Says Sax and Aria Explicit Empress. I love you very much, sir. They sent me a little care package because I was upset on Saturday, so thank you very much. What have we got this week? We've got the 50 rankings of the draft. That should get released tomorrow. We've got a doggies preview. And Friday, because bevtone keeps nattering me, we're going to try and do a beer with Pom in the evening. So we're just going to have a little callback. You can come on here. So, I mean, there's a few of you out there. Can't wait to get involved, to be honest. You can come and ask about Marxism or something. Yeah, I mean, so you can come on and you can do face to face. That'd be a good laugh. But anyway, peace, love, and light, everyone. Enjoy yourself, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Hey guys.
Go Blues.